caring for others. Stay with us.
This is Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program discussing the important crossroad of religion in life, produced by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues throughout our area. Now, today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Do you habla Espanol? Well, if you don't have to leave the program. You can stay right with us today, because we have a couple who are going to interpret it. They don't speak Spanish necessarily either, but they do speak love and compassion and kindness. Marion Flowers is one of the co-founders of MEDICO, and Norm Peters is another one of the co-founders of MEDICO, and they're going to talk to us about this organization, MEDICO, that involves people of our Central Texas communities and also throughout the country.
Also throughout the country.
Welcome, Marion, Norm, good to have you here.
Nice to be with you.
MEDICO means doctor, right?
In Spanish,
In
yes.
Spanish, right? That's good.
And MEDICO for us means Medical Eye and Dental International Care Organization. So the words nicely fit into the word we chose.
They really do. And MEDICO started here in Central Texas, correct?
In Central Texas in August 1990.
Mm-hmm.
As I understand, Norm, you and your wife Linda, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And Mary and you and your husband David and some others were on some trips. A trip to Central America, and the idea of reaching out to people, and when you came back you said, we'd like to start our own organization. And so MEDICO was given birth. Tell us about MEDICO. What do you do? How do you get going? What is it?
How do we get going? That was rough.
MEDICO really got started by our two husbands and wives. We got together and with Jim Durham, who's a banker, a former banker out of the Austin area. And we had the opportunity to go with another group to Honduras back in the 1989 area. And we've just got hooked immediately in the need that is down there and what we can do to help the people in the remote areas of Honduras. To make a long story short, we did form our own organization at the time. We're a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and our goal is to reach out to the people in third world countries, in remote areas where doctors are very rarely accessible. Bring in teams of doctors, including medical doctors, optometrists and dentists, and laypersons who assist these professionals for a week at a time and doing what we can, what little we can, to alleviate the pain and help the people in those remote areas.
It's pretty obvious to me that in those remote areas of Central America, and I've not been there, but I would think that probably there's a critical need, a shortage of those type of professionals, and they can do something. But what about people like yourselves now? You are not doctors, you're not dentists, optometrists, and yet you had this vision, this idea that you could do something. What do people like you, lay people like myself who would want to do something like that, what can you do to assist doctors and dentists and nurses?
Well, we're very good dental assistants. You learn fast.
And if you can hold a flashlight, you're helpful, because that's the way the dentist sees inside the mouth, so we can take care of the dental problems.
All right, you assist in that way, and you also became really good at cleaning out ears. Is that right, Norm?
Yes, I've been taught how to clean out the ears, and it's an interesting experience. So whenever they run into a problem with a plugged up ear, they say, Norm, and that's my job. So I take over and do that.
You want to know something? You look like pretty average people. Now let me ask you, Marion, what do you do? Tell our Austin Faith Dialogue audience.
I'm a speech-language pathologist, and I teach at Lake Travis Elementary School.
And Norm, what do you do?
Lynn and I run a financial services business in Georgetown.
All right, why do people like you, good average citizens of Central Texas, what in the world are you doing in Honduras? Why do that? Why give up a week of your time, I guess is what you do? Why give up some of your time to do something like this?
Well, all of us see on TV, in the major networks, the crying need throughout the world, and we sit there saying, I wish I could do something about this. And so what we've done is facilitate a way to do something about it. If you're sitting in the couch saying, I'd like to do it, pick up the phone and call MEDICO, and we will send it, we will take care of it, of the rest of your travel arrangements and coordinating an opportunity for you to go down and help the people and actually have hands-on experience helping those people that you see on TV all the time.
You know, Austin Faith Dialogue is dedicated to the people of Central Texas, saying this is what we have, these resources. Our greatest resource are the people we have in Central Texas, or any place, as a matter of fact. And here you come on television and you say to these other people who are watching the program, you can make a difference, you can do something. You're holding up that kind of idea. What if a person who's watching this program says, well, I am a doctor. I would like to do something. What would a doctor do? How would he get involved in MEDICO? How would you go about that process?
Gives us a telephone call, and we will send an application form, tell him what the dates that we've scheduled for the year, and have him call and ask any questions and talk to one of our board of directors who's a doctor. And once he's got all the information, send in his fee, just like everybody else has to pay.
Now, okay, the doctors, the dentists, the nurses, those professionals, they all would pay their fee.
Exactly.
What about costs? Right. How much does it cost to do something like this with MEDICO?
It costs $750 to go on the trip, and you can get by with only $50 more for expenditures down there. And a lot of people get their workplace or their churches to help pay their way. And we bank those donations for them.
People who maybe can't go can also give sponsorships to assist people who would want to go and can offer their time. You started this, gave birth to this. You have 5 individuals, co-founders, in August of 1990. How many such trips have your teams taken since August 1990?
Team 30 leaves in 2 weeks, 30 teams.
30 teams. And a team is what size?
Average about 15.
And what do you like to have, Marion, in terms of balance for that team? Is there a ratio for male, female? Are you looking for any particular type of
No, we're
ratio?
looking for professionals. We like to have one eye doctor, an optometrist, and we have donated glasses that have the prescriptions read that we can fit. And that's something you can do there, which you can't do here, is reuse the lens. We like to have 3 or 4 dentists and 1 or 2 medical doctors. And then we fill in the rest with regular people like us who help out.
Hold a flashlight or clean ears or do whatever, huh? You get to be the gophers of the organization, right?
Exactly.
And assist them, be support staff.
We're the organizers and keep things going so that the professionals can do their work.
How did you hear about MEDICO? Or how did you hear about this whole idea of going to Central America?
I heard about it through school. The nurse at my school was involved, and I started thinking, the kids aren't so little anymore. I could do something like that. And I just decided I would go on an adventure, and I've been on that adventure ever since.
And it's really been an adventure.
It really has.
An exciting adventure. Has it made a difference in your life, Marion?
Definitely. It really has. You stop thinking about things as much, and when you get a little extra money, put it toward your trip fund instead, and you have a great appreciation of toilet paper.
Yes, right.
And very simple things. When I get back from a trip, I find it very hard to buy anything that's not an essential.
Kind of a cultural shock that you go through.
Very
You see the way
much.
we live and compare to the way others in the world. And gives you that sense of wanting to create maybe a balance for our lives and for other people's lives. I told you before we started the program how I happened to find out about MEDICO. I'm a member of a civic organization here in Austin, the Northeast Kiwanis Club, and one day I was sitting there at eating my lunch with the Kiwanians, and this fellow, David Flowers, stood up and said that he was the manager of Sears at Hancock Center, and that he was Bell's at Hancock Center. Okay, sorry. He was in Hancock Center, at least I knew that. And he was going to talk about a group called MEDICO. And so I started listening, and the more I listened to David, and he happens to be your husband, and so that was very interesting that I got to meet his wife, and so the two of you helped found this organization. And David has gone on the trips also. Bell's lets him take time off, and he goes.
And we've been on maybe 3 trips together, and the others we've not been together, and it's real different either way.
How about Norm? How'd you find out about MEDICO?
Like you, I'm a member of service clubs. I was at a Rotary meeting, and a presentation was made by a person who had just gotten back from Honduras with an organization, and that I didn't realize what I was looking for, but apparently I was looking for something, because I left that meeting saying, Linda, instead of going skiing in Colorado next month, I'm going to Honduras. Would you like to go with me? And of course we had to find out where Honduras was right away on the map. And
what I want to know is, what did Linda say to you when you said we're not going skiing in Colorado? What?
We've been married 33 years, so she expects the unexpected. And so anybody who knows Linda cannot picture her in a remote area where there's no plumbing and no electricity. And like we've said earlier, she's been on about 18 teams and leading most of them. So we both got immediately hooked and have it's extremely rewarding and an emotional and a religious experience for us.
In what way, as I asked Marion, Norm, how has it affected you? I understand that Linda has really taken hold of your wife, but how has it affected you personally? What has it done to your lifestyle?
The lifestyle has changed simply, as Marion alluded to just a second ago. The material things aren't as important as they used to be. During the first year of our organization, I probably spent over 50% of my waking hours on this project. And that means your business suffers a little bit at the same time. But that was immaterial at that point, because our whole focus was to get this thing off and do it right, and be an organization that had impeccable experiences in terms of relationship with the people that we were working with down there. And we were able to achieve that but it took great care to pull this thing off and do it right, do it by the book, do it by the Honduran standards, not our standards, so that we are welcome in their country, not only by the people we serve, but by the military, which is a very important factor in that country. The political powers of the country know us well as the well, there's a third factor there, the third group, the medical community. You know, and the medical community is welcoming us and working with us. We always try to have a Honduran doctor on our teams.
Right. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that in the second half of the program, because I think it's important for the viewers to realize that you're going into a country and you're going in and being received. You're welcomed in the country. It's not something that you are forcing yourself on, but that they want you to come. But you really were touched by this experience, and that's what I want our viewers in Austin Faith Dialogue to realize, is that an experience like that, where you are giving of yourself, makes a difference not only for the people that you're ministering to, but also a difference for you, Marion, and you, Norm, and your lives and those around you. We're going to come back and talk some more about MEDICO and Honduras and the difference it makes for the people there. Stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Serving Austin means serving you. That has always been the primary goal of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. We are religion in action through the work of these organizations. Each plays a key role in making the capital city a better place to live, but we can't do it alone. Do you have some spare time, talents, or any resources that you can share? If you do, please call AMM at 472-7627, because serving Austin means serving you.
Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. We're talking with Norm Peters and Marion Flowers of MEDICO, an organization here in Central Texas that invites people like you and myself and people around the country to go and reach out to the people in Honduras. Marion, Norm, let's suppose that we have some people here that want to go with MEDICO. They contact you. We put up on the screen, you know, their telephone number where they can reach you. But then we go. We've got a date set, and in '95 there are 5 dates, I think, that are all set and ready to go. We find our date and we're ready to go. We've raised our $750. How do we go about doing it? Take us step by step. How do we get to Honduras?
One thing that we have worked really hard on, is our team packet, so that you'll know what to take. And there are always phone numbers of any of us in Austin, or if there's someone, if you're out of state and there's someone who's been on a trip there, we can give you their names to help you out. We send everyone a MEDICO t-shirt and ask that they wear it at the airport when we meet in Houston. And it's an immediate team building avenue, plus you know who's going. Before getting to Houston, you don't do any kind of community building, because people may be from all over. Is that the idea? Your first contact with one another would be there at Intercontinental in Houston? No, through Linda in the office.
Quite a bit of mail goes out to everybody, because everybody's antsy about wondering what they're getting into. And so we try to answer as many questions as possible in advance through letters. And then
the office helps with passports and all that type of stuff?
Right. Okay. And Linda our office is getting telephone calls all the time from people who are asking questions, who are getting ready to go on a trip. And it's a high intense time for the first timer because of the unknown. And so it's our job to relax them and say, don't worry, go with the flow, things are going to go very well. But then they all get together, as Marion said, at the airport, and the bonding of a team begins at that point. Because all of a sudden, here you are, strangers from different parts of the country, meeting in Houston Continental Airport, all with one bond. You got the white T-shirt with the red medical on it, and you know you've got friends right away. And then the opening night, when we finally get to San Pedro Sula, which is our base city, we'll have an opening night dinner. And every team leader does this differently, but I like to have everybody introduce themselves around the table, who they are, what they do, and how they got involved with MEDICO, and what their expectations are for the week. And it's kind of interesting to have them open up, and you get the shy ones, and you get the outward personalities and all types.
Do you ever take a video camera with you on a trip like that? You know what we need to do is have you go, you're going to go, no, you're not going in July.
I'll go in September.
You'll go in September. You know what we should do is have you take a video camera along and then come on back and we get some good footage, show that experience and come back again on Austin Faith Dialogue and say, this is what it was like at that dinner that we had, and everybody coming from the different places. Wouldn't that be kind of exciting to do?
Well, yes, and we've done that, and we haven't got good tapes at this point because we were
all amateurs
around the pool in the dark at the hotel last time. But it's the closing night dinner is a very emotional dinner because all of a sudden people that who may have been rather cold at the beginning and aloof, perhaps.
A little afraid, maybe? Sure.
All of a sudden, because of the experiences they've had of working with all kinds of people, all kinds of sicknesses. I'll never forget, you get emotional on this. I had Dr. Manfrey from Brenham, Texas, call me over once. He said, Norm, hold this child. And I held the child. He said, now put your thumbs right over the heart of the child. And I could feel through my thumbs the valve not working correctly. And this child was 9 months old. He says this child has about maybe 6 to 9 months more to live.
Oh, boy.
What can we do?
Yeah.
And I put the child down and had to go off into the bushes. I was really shook up because what flashed through my mind at that time was when organizations like MEDICO ask for financial assistance and people say it's not that important. They haven't had the chance to hold that child.
Beautiful story, Norm. Beautiful story.
It really gets to you.
Yes.
And when you see doctors who operate in emergency rooms and have seen everything, leave the airport on the plane with tears coming out of their eyes, you know we've done something right. You know that they have touched people and that we have touched them. It's not just only touching the people that we're reaching, it's touching our people that work with MEDICO too, and giving them an opportunity to give.
It's that hands-on giving, that tangible, and to me, that's the experience of God.
That's right.
That's that spiritual experience. You hold that child, and you hear the physician say, this is the reality. You know, Norm, that we, people of compassion and goodwill, have to do something because we're in the life business. That's what it's all about. What happens, though, to get through? You mentioned, before we had the break, you mentioned you have to go through the right channels. You have the military, you have the political, you have the medical community in Honduras. And why Honduras, Marianne? Why do you select Honduras?
That's the country our other group had been in, and we already had some contacts there.
Okay.
And so we built on those contacts. And one main reason that we have stayed in Honduras is because the contacts are so hard to make in other countries. So
and the people are gracious to you?
Yes.
The Honduran people?
Yes. One thing that we tell everyone is that you need to be very culturally sensitive to these people, and being ignorant does not mean that you're not intelligent. And I think that shows.
When you say being ignorant, you're talking about the lack of education?
Lack of education, lack of knowledge of health care and basic things like that. And we're not going in saying you have to do it our way. Is
it a time warp experience? Is it an experience of like you're going back a couple hundred years in this country in terms of sanitation, in terms of medical care, that type of thing?
Very much so.
And it says to you, we live so differently here, and you're not trying to push that down their throats, but rather you're caring for people.
Right. We have 5 different host organizations that help us down there, one being the most active Lions Club I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they're really rah-rah lions, and you know, and they are just super out of San Pedro Sula. And then there's a Catholic nun that we ran into, that Marion ran into on the plane coming back, and this Catholic nun who's been down there for 5 years, she's with the Sisters of Notre Dame out of St. Louis, Missouri. she asked Mary, and she said, could you bring a team down to us? Well, we've been down with 5 teams to that sister since that time.
And where is she located?
Her base is Sisters of Notre Dame of St. Louis, Missouri, but she's living in Honduras. She's given her life to the people in the foothills in the mountains of Honduras. And one of the things that we constantly hear from the host organizations, and one of the reasons they like working with MEDICO, is because the MEDICO team seem to show a compassion, as you were alluding to just a minute ago, for really caring about the people there and not trying to change their lives. We're there just to help them as they are at this point. Other organizations come down and sometimes, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but there are other organizations go down for religious purposes to try to get to change their religion. Our job is to get down there and help them with their health situation. Right. No strings asked. We've had Nicaraguan Contras standing in lines with the machine guns, waiting in line to get their teeth extracted, just like everybody else. No questions.
Serving people, not attempting to teach them doctrine of a religious tenet, but rather reaching out to them because they're fellow human beings. When you have your dinner, after you've had your dinner on that first night, then does that team of 15 stay together and go to one village? You don't break the team up to go to different villages?
Normally, if the team is the average size of 15, that team will stay together. If we have a 25 to 30, which happens occasionally, we may split them and go to 2 different villages if the host organization can handle it that way. But generally, the team stays together from that point on, serving 2 different communities during the week, so we have a change of scenery and a change of pace, and we can come in midweek to a hotel and shower and clean up.
Oh, you do? You get a little respite in the middle of the week.
We try to.
When you saw your village for the first time on your first MEDICO trip, what went through your mind as you described the village and the people you met?
The first village I went to was almost desert-like, and in the background you could see the mountains, and I think the first thing that hits you when you drive up, because we stayed in another location and drove out to that village, were the long lines of people waiting in the sun already. And that was at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. They heard you were coming.
And when the team arrives, the word gets throughout the mountain areas and the valleys. The MEDICO teams are here as promised. That's a key word too, as promised.
You know
they've had promises before, the teams don't show up.
Marion, Norm, you know what you're doing. You're touching all kinds of theological stuff for me, all right? You know, this whole Advent theme. They're coming, they're coming. And promise, that the promise is right, that you can count on the promise, the MEDICO team is coming. And they're lining up for teeth to be extracted, blood pressure, eyes. You know, what are some of, well, I'm getting ahead of the story. I'm getting excited here. Let's wait a minute. Let's go back a little bit.
Some people will come out of the mountains just for the honor to see a doctor. There's nothing wrong with them. Just to be able to go back to the village and say, I saw a doctor, and a doctor talked to me.
They've never seen a doctor before, or a dentist.
So you guys see them standing in line, you come and get out of your vehicles and you set up your tables, you know what to do, the doctors know what to do, the dentist, you divide them up that way, nurses, and people start coming, is that right? What about, is there order? Do they stay in line? Is there any kind of threat to you? Do you feel any fear or apprehension that they might overwhelm you?
We involve the local community leaders through our host organizations, and they're in charge of crowd control and giving us security so that we have room and breathing room to work. And we normally work inside of a schoolhouse. When we go to a village, everything stops in that village. And the whole village stands around and watches all day long what we're doing. And
when the day is over, Norm, when the day is done, that first day, and you're kind of exhausted, but yet inspired by what's happened and touching of the people and all the experiences you had, you rest that night.
We try.
Where do you go rest? Do you have a home? Do you have a cot? Do you sleep on the floor? What?
Different villages are different ways. I've slept in a private home before, and we were very lucky, David and I, we stayed with the store owner, and he had a cot out in his warehouse.
I wonder why you got to be in with a store owner.
I don't know. That just happened.
It is Bell's, right? Bell's. That's right. They have a Bell's.
That was Bell's department store. Right. And you could buy beans by the pound or the handful in this little store. It was a wonderful store. I think Linda slept in a house that no one had a bed even.
We sleep on the floors.
We've slept in the churches before. And
if you can sleep.
And if you can sleep with the donkeys all the animals, and you're so excited. And with 16 people in the room,
And so
it can be
overwhelmed,
hard.
just absolutely overwhelmed. What about the churches? There would be a parish church there. There would be a place of worship. The people, a priest. Would there be a priest there?
Generally, we run into priests not too regularly
Not too
out there, but
often.
with
I think
a
they
sister.
travel.
With a sister, we run into the priest pretty regularly there. But no, we don't see much of the religious clergy there.
Is there, middle of the week, you get to go in and shower and then come back again. Is there any time that you feel down and depressed by it's overwhelming to see the needs? Is there ever a time that you feel like, Lord, how can I make a difference?
Oh, that's a natural reaction, but we're not there to change the world. We're there to change that one individual we're taking care of at that time, and that's what motivates you. When you see an elderly lady who hasn't seen her grandchildren because she hasn't had glasses, couldn't see them clearly, and you see her for the first time see her grandchildren, and that smile on her face, maybe that's all it takes.
Oh, gee. You know, the pictures that must be in your minds as you think of all this, and it's doing the work of goodwill and sharing, in my vocabulary, the kingdom of God.
I have a picture of a grandmother looking up. She had some teeth extracted by a young medical or dental student that was there being supervised by his instructor from LSU. And when he finished with the work on her, she looked up with him with her hand covered, because they like to cover their mouth, and pointed up the sky, and tears came streaming out of her eyes, but she was smiling. And he said, "What is she looking? What is she saying to me?" And this was a very cold, neat guy, a type A personality, never emotional for the whole week. And I said, "She's thanking God for sending you to take away her pain." Okay.
You see.
And all of a sudden he turned, and the tears were starting to flow. He walked away and had to recoup. You know, it finally got to him. What he was doing, what he was doing with his hands.
You see why I said at the beginning of the program that you would interpret for that dental student. You interpreted her language. She did not speak in Spanish. She spoke in signs, and the sign being she was thanking God, and you reminded him. And I think maybe that's what you've done today for Austin Faith Dialogue, Marion Flowers. Thank you, Norm Peters, because you've told us about signs of goodwill, signs of God's presence. We're grateful for you and glad you're a part of our community. Blessings to you and MEDICO, and thanks for being on Austin Faith Dialogue. And on the screen, you see the phone number for MEDICO, and we hope that you'll call up and offer yourself and your support. Thanks for watching Austin Faith Dialogue, and be with us again next week. Peace be with you as you do the work of good news in the kingdom of God. Thank you.